But if the environment that you create consists of an environment of patience, an environment of kindness and wanting to help, an environment of understanding, if you give off the energy that you're a consultant, that you're there for them to have a great experience with you, okay, now you're in an environment where you're gonna avoid hidden objections most likely. Now you're in an environment where trust is gonna be built much more easier. And now you're in an environment where not only you enjoy the process more, but so do they. Welcome to the channel, everyone. It's amazing to have you with us. Today, I'm gonna talk about objection handling in sales. Now, before I go into it, I wanna give you a little bit of background of myself when it comes to this topic, because in my opinion, you should only take opinion from people who have credibility and results in the areas that you're looking to get better at. Now, I myself have been in sales for more than 9 years, since I was 19 years old. I've had a sales organization over the last 5 years that consists of over 350 members. Over 150 licensed professionals in the financial industry are being trained directly by me. I myself have earned millions of dollars in commissions in sales. Many of the people that are trained by me, that are working with me in my organization, make 6 figures, high 6 figures, and very soon, a lot of those individuals are gonna be making 7 figures like myself. So this is definitely an area that I have a lot of experience in, and I put a lot of hours in developing the skill set, not only to make my businesses and the people working with me more effective, but also to give a better client service and to give a better client experience to the people that interact with us. Look, a lot of the times, people, whenever it comes to learning about communication, sales, leadership, I would say a small demographic of people, I don't think a lot of people fit into this, but a small demographic of people have a kind of negative point of view of, why do you need to teach people this stuff? Are they gonna manipulate people with it? Here's the reality. In order for you to defend people, you need to learn the same fighting skills that bullies use to bully them. At the end of the day, learning how to fight doesn't make you a good person or a bad person. It's how you use the skill of fighting that makes you a good person or a bad person. If you learn how to fight and use it to bully people and dominate them, you're a bad person. If you learn how to fight but use it to defend the innocent and protect people, then you're a good person. It's no different in communication, in sales, in leadership. If you learn the skills of communication and sales so you can help people make a decision that benefits them, you're a good person. If you learn the skills of influence and sales and communication to get people to make decisions that hurt them, you're a bad person. And I believe that if you're a good person, you should learn these skills more than anyone else. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of bad people that learn these skills that get people to do things or make decisions that they shouldn't do. But if you're a good person, which I hope all the people that watch me are good people, then you need to learn these skills more than ever. Because by learning how to sell, learning how to influence, learning how to handle objections, you're able to get people to do things that they wouldn't otherwise. Remember something, the reason salespeople get paid so much money is because they help people do one of the most difficult things, which is make decisions. All human beings, no matter where you're at in life, are gonna have a hard time making certain decisions. What a salesperson is meant to do is to educate you and communicate with you in an effective manner that makes it easier for you to make decisions that benefit you. Okay? And objection handling is one of the key areas that you need to really become good at if you want to help people make those decisions. So let's go right into it. Like anything else in life, if you don't have the right mindset or the right perspective going into it, you're not going to be as effective as someone else who does. So when it comes to objection handling, the first thing that I want to make sure all of you understand is what is the mindset you should have when going into scenarios of handling people's objections. Here's the first one. Questions and objections are a good thing. One of the most common things that I see, especially amongst new people in sales, is they have a negative point of view when it comes to questions or objections. Look, if people don't ask you questions, if they're not giving you objections, that's probably one of the most key signs to show that they're not interested. When people are interested in something, they're gonna ask questions about it. When people are interested in something and they want to move forward towards it, naturally certain objections and challenges are going to come up that is going to create resistance. So the first thing I advise all of you to do is have a positive point of view when it comes to getting objections and having people asking you questions. And you know why this is so important? Because if you have a negative view to this and you get defensive or worse, offensive, when somebody gives you an objection or asks you a question, you're not gonna come off professional. You're not gonna come off with someone with a lot of credibility, and you're gonna create a very uncomfortable environment for that person. But if you have a positive point of view, you actually get happy when people ask you questions and they see that smile on your face. They see the patience. They're gonna feel a lot more comfortable communicating with you, and you're not gonna deal with as many hidden objections. You know, one of the key reasons why hidden objections are so common in sales is because the client doesn't feel comfortable sharing objections with you because you haven't shown that you actually are gonna give a positive response and respect it. So that's the first thing. Here's the second thing. Identify whether it's an objection, a question, or a situation. Look, sometimes people are gonna ask you questions just to ask you questions. It's not necessarily an objection. For me, an objection is a question or a challenge that they bring to you that is keeping them from making a decision. Sometimes people just ask you questions just to interact. Sometimes people ask you questions just because they want to maybe feel smart or they want to feel like they're doing a good job of interacting with you. It's not always an objection. And sometimes people give you situational circumstances that there really isn't anything you can do about. For example, I'm in the financial industry. The biggest things that we want to help people do is we want to help them save more money and invest more money for their future. And we want to help them get the proper protections in place in terms of insurances. So if the unexpected were to happen, them and their family are protected. Those are the two areas that we want to really give value and help people. Okay, so if somebody comes to me and they say, Nima, I love these investments, I love these insurances, but I don't have a job. That's not an objection. That's a situation at that point. There is nothing that I can say to that person that's gonna help them actually become a client of mine, because unless they have an income, they're not gonna be able to save and invest money. Or if you're a realtor and somebody says, I would love to buy this house, but I just don't have the down payment, that's not an objection, that's a situation. And when you're dealing with situations, sometimes you just have to move on to the next person because maybe that person is not in a situational circumstance that allows them to be your client. And it's important for you to be aware of these things because you're gonna end up wasting a lot of time trying to convince people that even if you succeed in, they still can't benefit from your services and products. So know what is an objection, know what is a question, and know what is a situation, and handle them all appropriately. Here's another thing to keep in mind. Don't take it personally. Look, you are the professional. You have the knowledge. You have the deep understanding of the products. The individuals that you're speaking to, many times it might be their first time making a decision when it comes to buying a car, when it comes to getting insurance, when it comes to investing, when it comes to purchasing a home. Have empathy. Even if it's not their first time, they might be skeptical. They might not have the level of trust in you or in what you're offering for them to just go with it just because you're telling them to. So don't take any objections, don't take any questions personally. One of the things that I always like to share with my team is remember how you started and have some empathy. All of us were skeptical when we first came across the product that we're even selling. All of us had probably questions about it. All of us probably were wondering about it. So remember how you felt and have empathy for the individual that's asking you. Because again, people communicate more through energy than they do through words. You could say all the right things, but if the energy you're giving off is a defensive energy, is an energy that maybe, hey, I'm a little bit offended by what you're saying, if it's a little aggressive, if it's a little condescending, I don't care how good what you're saying is, people are not gonna wanna do business with you. So make sure you're in the right headspace So you're giving off the right energy and creating the right environment for your client to feel comfortable and secure. Don't have an outcome in mind. See, if you go into a sales situation certain that you're gonna close the deal, you're not gonna be able to give off an authentic energy that actually shows you wanna help people. If you go into it certain that, hey, if I say this person will be convinced and wanna do business with me, then when they don't, you're gonna be put off your game. So here's one of the best things that I did that helped me 10x my results. I always reminded myself before any sales interaction that I was in that my main objective is to give value, to create understanding, and most importantly, to get better at my craft. So I'm not going into the sales interaction because I want to sell a product. I'm not going into the sales interaction because I need to convince someone. I'm not going into the sales interaction to get a commission. I'm only going into the sales interaction to create understanding, to educate, and hopefully, if the right circumstances are there, if the person is of the same opinion as me, help them take action. And if none of those happen, as long as I do my best in the sales interaction, as long as I learn things that I can improve on after it, then it's a win for me. You know how much easier it is when you go into meetings, when you go into interactions with potential clients, and you don't have all that pressure of having to close the deal? You don't have all that pressure of having to convince them? And you know how much of a better experience it is for that person when they come into it and they actually genuinely feel like you want to help them? They genuinely feel like you're just there to create understanding and educate them? So take the desperation out of it. Even if you need the commission more than anything else, don't go into it with that mentality. Because I promise you, desperation only does one thing. It turns people off and repels potential opportunities. It doesn't attract them. You have to put yourself in a headspace of abundance, and you have to keep reminding yourself that you're not there to convince, you're there to educate. And I promise you, if you do that, and if you go into it with that headspace, you'll come off like a seasoned professional, even if it's your first day on the job. Here's another one. Never assume, always ask. We're gonna touch on this in a bit more detail, but one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people have a hard time handling objections or creating a good environment for a potential client is because all they do is assume. You just assume you know everything. You assume you know. Look, nothing is worse, in my opinion, than you going into a doctor's office and before you've even opened your mouth, the doctor is already prescribing you medication. Just imagine you go into a doctor's office and before you've even sat down, before the doctor has even asked you how your day has been, they start prescribing you medication. How do you feel in that circumstance? I don't know about you, but I would feel very uncomfortable. I would feel like, why is the doctor prescribing me this? They don't even know what's wrong with me. And I would feel a huge lack of trust. That's what happens when you assume you already know what the client is trying to say, when you assume that you already know what their question is, when you assume that you already know what they want, and you just go ahead and just give answers and statements and offers. You know what the person feels like? They go, man, this person doesn't care about me. They don't want to help me, because if they wanted to help me, they would take them some time and ask me some good questions. They just want to sell me something and they'll walk away. So never assume. Even if you're 99.9% sure you know what they're saying, ask anyways. Because by asking, it shows you care. It shows that you actually want to help. Just like how a good doctor will first diagnose you, will first check to make sure everything is good, will ask you some good questions, and then will offer a prescription. Because the doctor's job is to help you. It's not their job to sell you a medication. So they're gonna do the due diligence to figure out what's going on before offering a solution, rather than just offering a solution right off the bat. And here's the last thing. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. And I get it. Sometimes you're new to sales. Sometimes you're getting a lot of rejection. Sometimes you're having a lot of, off months or off weeks or off days. And I get it. Everyone goes through tough times. But you gotta learn to enjoy what you do if you're gonna be good at it. And the key here is learn to enjoy it. Because some of you are like, well, I hate this. It's so uncomfortable. Of course it is. You've never done sales before. It's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning. If you're a human being, rejection is going to affect you. It's part of the process. I get it. Of course you're not. Look, nothing that I did in the beginning did I enjoy because I was bad at it. Everything I've done in my life, at first I was bad, then I became okay, then I became good, then I became great if I wanted to become great in it. But when you're in the bad stage, which all of us are going to be in for a certain duration of time, whenever we get into something new, of course it's not going to be as fun. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, you're going to fail a lot, you're going to maybe be embarrassed, you're going to be dealing with a lot of situations you're not used to, no problem. But you got to learn to enjoy it. And you know how I learned to enjoy sales in the beginning when I was so new at it and didn't know what I was doing and I was feeling upset most of the time because of the rejections? I told myself that if I learn this skill of communication, if I learn this skill of influence, no matter what I do in my life, I'm going to benefit. I told myself that forget about the results, forget about how many sales I make. Let me just focus on becoming amazing at this skill set. So then I came into every sales interaction not with that anxiety of, oh, I got to make sure they say yes, but instead with the enthusiasm of, here's another opportunity for me to get better at this skill. And just because I went into it with that headspace, not only did it increase the chances of me getting the sale, because I wasn't giving off a desperate energy, but it also made the whole thing way more fun. Because every time I failed, every time I made mistakes, and trust me, I made a lot, it was another opportunity for me to get to my main goal, which was to become better in this area. Remember, the only way you learn is by failing. Even if you go read something in a book, until you actually do it, you don't truly learn it. Because reading something, watching something, listening to it is only one part of the equation. It's the information getting. But in order for you to truly learn something, you need to emotionally connect with it. And the only way you can emotionally connect with information is if you apply it. Whether you fail at it or succeed, by the way. So enjoy the process. Now let's get into it. Once you have all the mindset down, now the next step is how do we actually create the right environment for the client? The emotional state that you and the client is in is 80% of the work. Meaning, if when the client comes in and you're interacting with them, you're a little bit defensive, you're a little bit maybe aggressive, you're a little bit impatient, maybe you're a little bit condescending, maybe you're a little bit, that's not a good environment for the client to feel comfortable in, to feel trust in, to want to actually spend time with you to come up with a solution. But if the environment that you create consists of an environment of patience, an environment of kindness and wanting to help, an environment of understanding, if you give off the energy that you're a consultant, that you're there for them to have a great experience with you, okay, now you're in an environment where you're gonna avoid hidden objections most likely. Now you're in an environment where trust is gonna be built much more easier. And now you're in an environment where not only you enjoy the process more, but so do they. And that makes it a lot easier to build that rapport. So keep in mind, you want to give off a vibe and energy of patience, kindness, of understanding, mutual understanding, meaning you understand where they're coming from, and hopefully they understand where you're coming from. And you want to go into the interaction as a consultant wanting to educate and offer solutions. Once that's the case, now we can go into a little bit of the tangibles of what you can actually do to become a better objection handler. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that in any interaction, there is a leader and there's a follower. Sales is no different. When you're in a sales interaction with an individual, if you want to do a great job of helping them and of leading them into a decision that benefits them, you have to be in the leadership position, not the follower position. Remember, you are the expert of the product and service you're offering. You are the one that is leading them to make a decision in that area that benefits them. So you can't be in the follower position and help them. You have to be in the leader position. When you go to the doctor's office, the doctor tells you where to sit, the doctor asks the questions, the doctor leads the whole interaction, and we're okay with it because the doctor is the expert and we're there to receive value from them. It's no different in sales. You are the price. You are the one that is offering value, not the client. Many new people in sales make this mistake of feeling like they need the client and they need the commission that might come from the client. So they find themselves in the follower position in the sales interaction, not the leadership position. And they wonder why their results are not so good. But if you're going to be great in this area, you have to truly believe you're helping people. You have to believe that the product and service you're offering is going to benefit them. You have to believe that there is millions and millions of people out there who want to work with you, who want to benefit from your product and service, and there is only one of you that can offer it to them with the highest level of integrity, morale, and the greatest level of service. And when you have that posture, the interaction goes way more smooth than if you don't. Now, it might take time for you to develop that belief, so if it's not there yet, no problem. But keep that in mind that that's the kind of perspective and that's the belief system you need to have when going into the interaction. Now, one of the key factors of who's the leader and who's the follower is who's asking the questions. So if the client is the one that is directing where the conversation goes and they're asking all the questions, they're in the leadership position. But if you, as the sales consultant, as the salesperson, does a great job of leading the conversation by asking good questions, you'll be in control and you'll be able to help that client a lot better. So how does this exactly work? It means that when they ask you a question, don't respond immediately with an answer and a statement. Instead, respond with a question. Now, you might be thinking, well, Nima, am I just asking questions just to ask questions? No. Like I said earlier, never assume. You're asking questions for a few different reasons. The first is you want to get a full understanding of what their concern is before addressing it. The second thing is you want to show that you care and want to understand them. The third, you want to create doubt in their thinking. Because as they respond to your question, they may realize that what they are saying might not make sense. And last but not least, this might be the most important point when it comes to this. When you lead someone to give you an answer by asking them great questions, they believe it and have a much easier time going with it than when you tell them the answer. So by asking good questions, you can get them to handle their own objection. Remember something, people follow their ideas with a lot more confidence than they follow someone else's. So when you do a good job of asking questions and you lead them to the answer that you wanted to give them anyways, that answer becomes way more solidified in their mind than if you just gave it to them yourself. And by being able to ask good questions, many times you can actually lead them to giving you the answer themselves and you don't even have to do it. Now, here's a couple key things to remember when it comes to asking questions. One, you always want to make sure you're using phrases like, just so I can get a little bit more clear, just out of curiosity, in order for me to understand where you're coming from a little bit better. You want to use statements like this before you ask the questions so the person doesn't feel like you're interrogating them or there is some sort of tactic. So you want to tell them why you're asking the question before you go into asking it. Here's another key factor to remember. Always ask for permission. Is it okay if I offer you a solution? Is it okay if I ask a couple questions for me to understand you better? Human beings love it when they feel that somebody respects them enough where they're gonna ask for permission before going into it. Sometimes when you're a little bit aggressive and you just go in and ask questions without asking for permission or without setting it up, it feels a little bit like an interrogation, it feels a little bit tactical, and it doesn't come off in the best way. So one, tell them why you're asking before you ask, and two, put yourself in a position where you're asking for permission so they feel that level of respect and you create that environment again where they feel safe and trust and they're okay to continue their interaction with you. And here's one last thing that I'm gonna talk about in this, and then if you're okay with it, I'm gonna actually role play a quick example with one of our team members in our social media team, so you can see how this looks. Here's the last thing. One of the best ways that I found to give someone an answer once I've done my due diligence to understand where they're coming from is something called feel, felt, found. And it goes a little bit like this. I know how you feel, I felt the same way before, and this is what I found. Here's why this is so powerful. We've all been in the client seat most of the time before we got into actually selling the product that we're selling. Most of the time, maybe it doesn't always relate, but most of the time. And even if you haven't yourself been in that position, maybe you know someone who has and you can use their story when you're talking about this. But when you talk about I feel, what are you doing? You're creating empathy because now they realize that you're just like them and you've had reservations or concerns just like they've had before. So they don't feel like they're being stupid. They don't feel like they're being ridiculous. They feel like they're understood by you. So you're creating empathy. And when you say, I feel how you feel, I felt the same way before, and then followed up with, here's what I found, you are setting up the right atmosphere and the right environment so they can receive your answer much better. Because when you say, I know how you feel, I felt the same way, they feel empathy with you, they feel understanding with you, they feel like you're on the same page as them, and they feel like they can relate to you. So then when you're about to give them the answer, they're much more open to receiving it than if you just came out and give them the answer right out of the blue. Let me share an example of how this would look for you so that way you can get a better understanding, and then we'll finish off the video. So I'm gonna get one of the members of my social media team to give me an objection when it comes to the insurance industry, and I'll show you as an example how I would handle it.
Hey Nima, I feel like I'm young and healthy, so I don't need life insurance right now.
Okay, so just so I understand you better, you don't think you need life insurance right now because you're young and healthy?
Yes.
Can I ask you a quick question just so I can see if I can give you a solution in this regard?
Please.
What age or how many years from now do you think would be better for you to come back and look into life insurance?
Well, I feel like about 5 years from now.
Okay, so you would say right now you're young and healthy, but in 5 years you might be in an age that is more appropriate for you to look into this stuff.
Yes.
Awesome. Are you fully aware of how the pricing of life insurance works, of how the underwriting process works, or no one has shared this information with you before?
No.
Would you be okay if I give you a little bit of information in that regard, just so you have a better understanding before you make a decision?
Yes.
Awesome.
Please.
With life insurance, the way it's designed is that the cost is meant to go up every year, because every year that we get older, our chance of death increases. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So life insurance companies increase the cost of insurance every year based on our new age to match the new risk that they're taking. So if you come back in 5 years, the cost of insurance is going to be significantly higher than if you were to do it now. Is that going to make sense to you?
Yes.
Another thing to keep in mind is that with life insurance, just like other insurances, there's an underwriting process so the insurance company can determine whether you're healthy enough for them to want to take a risk of taking you on as a client. So it's amazing that you're healthy right now, and I hope you stay healthy forever, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. Would you agree? And if something happens in your medical status, it might actually make it so you can never get life insurance again. Did you know that, or no one had really explained that before to you?
I know that part.
You had an idea. So being healthy is actually a good thing, and if you're not healthy, it's actually very difficult to get life insurance. Now, I know that in your mind, you feel like, hey, I'm too young, I'm healthy, so maybe this is not a priority for you. Are you okay with me just sharing with you really quickly how I came to make that decision when I got my insurances at a young age?
Absolutely.
Because I know exactly how you feel. You know, I felt the exact same way. When I was first learning about life insurance, I'm like, why would I need this? I'm young, I'm healthy, I don't have dependents. So for me, it was like, why would I even need to consider this? So I know exactly how you feel. I felt the same way. So I'm totally on the same page. But what I found was the longer I wait, the higher the cost of insurance is gonna become. What I found was the longer I wait, the higher the chance of something that might happening to me in my health that might make it so I could never get life insurance again. So although I didn't need it when I was young and it wasn't a priority for me, I thought, why not get it now when the cost is lower, when I am healthy? So when I'm older, I don't need to worry about paying insane levels of cost to get the insurance at that point. And also, I don't have to worry about something happening to me that might make it unlikely for me to even get approved for insurance. So those are the reasons that I got it for myself. Not sure if that makes sense to you, not sure if that's a good reason for you or not, but I just wanted to share that with you so you have a better understanding. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. I just wanted to show you that quick example just so you get a better understanding of how I go through the process of asking questions, how I go about asking for permission when asking questions, and how I use feel, felt, found as a way to handle my clients' objections so they feel more empathy, they feel more understanding, and they feel like they can actually relate to me, and if the solution worked for me, might work for them as well. Hope you enjoyed that video. Hope that was a good training. Please share with us in the comments, what are some things that you've learned that has helped you communicate more effectively with your peers, or that's helped you handle better objections so we can all learn together. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so every time I have a new video come up, you'll be the first to know about it. And if you'd like to learn more about motivation, dopamine, how do we get ourselves motivated to always want to improve skills like sales, like objection handling, click the video to the side here because that's going to give you a good insight on all of that information. Thank you again for watching and hope to see you on the next video.